Garten of Banban, whether we like it or not, has paved its way into the indie horror scene, and not in a good way. Garten of Banban is easily the most criticized horror game, hell, the most criticized game in recent memory. Its very obviously rushed look and feel garnered a lot of attention, as it's nothing more than a game trying to be the next big indie sensation. But what if I told you that in some twisted, backwards way, Garten of Banban may actually have saved indie horror? Garten of Banban is defined more specifically as Mascot Horror, a subgenre of indie horror. Okay, so what is Mascot Horror anyway? Mascot Horror is centered around taking children's mascots, or a mascot with the intent of being child-friendly, and using them in a way that subverts the player's expectations into making them scary. The earliest example of this is Five Nights at Freddy's. The mascot may be child-friendly in the day, but at night they're actually killing machines. It works in FNAF because it's taking the already established fear of animatronic entertainers that many people already have. However, Mascot Horror went from a creative new outlet for horror and storytelling to a marketable gimmick used to make some money. All these games have to do is sell you on a somewhat unique gimmick with some creepy yet advertiser-friendly characters, and by next week you'll be seeing them on store shelves. Before talking about Garten of Banban, I thought it might be a good idea to talk about its inspiration, Poppy Playtime. Okay, I know I said I'd talk about Banban, but stick with me for a moment. I'll make this brief. Developed by Mob Games, formerly Enchanted Mob, an internet staple among children, Poppy Playtime was designed to be as enticing to their younger audience as possible. Bright colors, marketable mascots, an easy to understand story. Did I mention the marketable characters? That was the real selling point. Poppy Playtime was a calculated move based on trends seen with the horror genre. It clearly worked. Poppy Playtime is currently one of the most prominent and recognizable horror franchises right now. For good reason too. Poppy Playtime is absolutely everywhere. Mob Games somehow created the next big horror icon almost overnight. I know I'm probably in the minority here, but I actually really enjoy Poppy Playtime. It's different, and I think it could actually be really good once the full game is out. But what happens when you take a game with a lot of promise, such as Poppy Playtime, and try to make it your own game with the least amount of effort possible? You get Garten of Banban. On January 6, 2023, my day started like any other. Wake up, get ready, check Twitter, when I noticed that there were a lot of people talking about a new horror game that released titled Garten of Banban. At first, I really didn't know what to think of it. I saw it as pretty much any other horror game and moved on. It wasn't until a day later when it blew up where I thought I should probably check it out. It was listed as free on Steam, so that evening I set aside some time to sit down and play it. I don't even think I can describe my experience to you for you to understand that this is probably the most insulting game I've ever played. It was so insulting, I came up with a list of the most damning aspects. Crude visuals, marketable, family-friendly monsters, a unique gimmick to make it slightly stand out from every other Mascot horror game, puzzle-style gameplay, but it's not done very well, and it centers entirely around the aforementioned gimmick. Bruh. Abysmal level design, obligatory chase sequence, a merch button on the main menu. Wow, that's all 7 Mascot Horror cardinal sins.
That's fantastic.
Garten of Banban was legitimately the perfect shitstorm of trash. At first, I had a hard time discerning if it was some absurdly well-done meta-commentary on the horror genre, but no. This was an unironic game with an unironic story made unironically. The entire game is what's wrong with the genre, but yet it still caught attention. Garten of Banban had somehow turned around its audience from the mass criticism to ironic praise. #BirdUp was trending on Twitter showing support for the game's bird enemy. More than ever, people had eyes on the Euphoric Brothers, and most importantly what was to come for Garten of Banban. But thankfully, we didn't have to wait very long. Garten of Banban 2 had one of the shakiest launches I've ever had the honor to witness. The second the game dropped, people were already on Twitter complaining, and for good reason. This time around, there was an entry fee of $5 US. Let that sink in. You had to pay money to play Garten of Banban 2, a sequel to a 10-minute tech demo. The thought process is just unreal to me. I'm sure by now you've already seen how bad Chapter 2 is, but if you haven't, it's more or less the exact same thing, but more drawn out and infinitely more unamusing. It really makes you think how someone could even come up with something so bad. I was wondering the exact same thing for a while, until I met the Euphoric Brothers. The Euphoric Brothers, Ferris and Geppo, are 2 brothers who have a passion for making video games. I say passion very loosely here. The Euphoric Brothers really wanted to make their own new hit indie title similar to the likes of Poppy Playtime. So in a little under 2 weeks, they managed to birth Garten of Banban. As to be expected with the massive uprise of their new game, the Euphoric Brothers really didn't know how to react at first. They started off by staying quiet and riding off the hype of Banban 1 while silently dropping teasers for its sequel. It's unknown how they took the criticism of Banban 1, but we definitely know how they took it after Banban 2. Hint hint, not very well. As of writing this video, the Euphoric Brothers have taken to Twitter to complain about Steam's refund policy, after a couple notable creators tweeted them celebrating a successful refund of Banban 2. To sum it up, if you purchase a game on Steam, play it for less than 2 hours, you can request a refund. Refunds usually always go through, and you'll receive the exact amount you paid for the game. Now, why exactly would the Euphoric Brothers be complaining about a very consumer and developer-friendly system that's been in place for years? Well, Garten of Banban 2 was the first paid chapter, costing $5 mind you. It can also be completed fairly easily in under 2 hours. This means that pretty much everyone can play through Garten of Banban 2 and refund it as soon as they finish the game, which mostly everyone did. As a consumer, it is well within your right to be able to refund a game if you don't like it. That's been the industry standard for years now. It's in place to prevent developers like the Euphoric Brothers taking advantage of consumers by turning out shitty, half-baked games like Garten of Banban. The Euphoric Brothers, however, took this as consuming a product without paying for it. This essentially tells us two things. Number one, the Euphoric Brothers don't actually care about turning out a good product, and two, they really only care about the money. I'll start with the first one because it's a little easier to summarize. Twitter, being Twitter, tried to help the Euphoric Brothers by commenting positive yet constructive criticism to help their future games. However, the Euphoric Brothers would take this as an insult and block everyone who attempted to speak up. On Twitter, blocking someone or multiple people near instantaneously is the fastest way to lose any credibility. Also, if you're enjoying the video so far, a sub to the channel would be euphoric. I'm never doing that again, holy. Secondly, it's evident that in the 2 months the Euphoric Brothers spent making Banban 2, that there wasn't any actual effort put into the game's development. Everything feels clunky to play, it's boring, there's literally no variety. It's a walking simulator with a couple puzzles thrown in. Oh, and how could I possibly forget the billion polygon remote? All the Euphoric Brothers were focused on was turning out some product as fast as possible to cash in on the Garten of Banban hype. And while yes, it technically did work, it only left them in a worse spot. Influencers who were ironically raving about their game no longer wanted anything to do with them. So how does Garten of Banban save indie horror? Well, it's a little more complicated, but bear with me. I'm sure by now you've already seen and at least heard 3 other videos on Garten of Banban and its problems, so I'll keep my very basic critiques brief. Garten of Banban is the lowest common denominator of Mascot Horror, or just straight up gaming. There's no substance, personality, or even thought to back up this game. Its bright and colorful characters and environments are only there to entice a larger audience. It's like walking through a YouTube thumbnail. It's enticing for about 5 seconds until you realize you're looking at me and Siri had a baby. What I'm trying to say is that no respectable human being would ever stoop lower or even as low as the Euphoric Brothers did with Garten of Banban. The game is such a large blemish on the rather clean indie horror scene, and I really mean that. In the past few months, we've received some of the greatest Mascot Horror titles. Bendy and the Dark Revival, Choo Choo Charles, Happy's Humble Burger Farm, just to name a few. We're lucky to be in a time where mediocrity is being weighed more heavily and innovation and passion are being more promoted. If you are, or aspiring to be a game developer, take Garten of Banban as a lesson that chasing that bag with trends instead of focusing on original ideas will only result in criticism. Yeah, you may get momentary attention, but it's not going to last nor provide anything meaningful. I really hope that the Euphoric Brothers in their momentary absence from the internet really assess themselves and their games. But remember, as a consumer, you have the right to vote with your wallet. Know who you're supporting and know what you're buying into. I have a strange hope that Garten of Banban manages to turn itself around and become one of the best games anyone's ever played. Like, I'm talking Game of the Year material, or something so incredibly twisted that most YouTubers can't even get by without censoring the majority of it. The Euphoric Brothers have potential, believe it or not. That spoon thing in Banban 2 tells me that there's a chance they could pull it off, but I'm not holding my breath. Bottom line, I'll see you in 2 months when Garten of Banban 3 drops.